Okay, in this video we have a Oracle VirtualBox machine running that has Windows 8.1 installed on it. It's got Plex Media Server, the latest version, 0.9 something or other. It has PlexEditor for Windows. I believe it's version 2.23, and the Plex Media Server 0.9.914, blah blah blah. In this video we're going to show you how to set the batch files up for PlexEditor for Windows to automatically stop Plex Media Server and copy the Plex Media Server database into a temporary working directory, edit the database with PlexEditor for Windows, and then when done, copy the new database back into the Plex Media Server working or program directory, database directory, and start Plex Media Server back up. Okay, if you go into normally Windows will install the Plex database under users, username, app data, local, Plex Media Server, plugin support, databases. So that right there. And this is your database. This is I believe it's a log file, and this is the index file for that database. Plex last year changed its version of MySQL that it was using, and when they did that, for some reason, if you stop Plex Media Server running, it may or may not save all the changes and edits to the database before closing the program, and so that these other two files here are needed to open the database with another program in order to include all any changes and edits that haven't been written to the database yet. I don't know why they don't flush that cache when they close the program, but they don't. So we have PlexEditor has a default data directory, and we've told it to use this data directory in the settings for PlexEditor, and we have this database directory. So if we want to copy these three files, you need to copy all three of them into your data directory. So now we got these three files in here. If we start PlexEditor up, it will read this file in because we've told it to use this file already, and then it'll pull in any edits and changes in out of here. Now when PlexEditor is done and exited, it flushes the cache, writes all the changes to the database file, deletes these two files that we don't need anymore, and only leaves one file that we have to copy back to this directory. But at the same time, we have to delete these two files before starting up the Plex Media Server because they're redundant now, and they will reopen and create new ones when Plex Media Server is started up. So what we need to do is go in and edit these two batch files that we got here. We got a start bat file and a close bat file. And the only thing you really need to do with the samples that was provided with PlexEditor is change the database paths to reflect your database paths on your system. So usually this is the only part that is changed. So when the start bat file is run, when PlexEditor is first run, it's going to ask if you want to go ahead and execute the onStart automatic batch file. You tell it yes, and first thing it does is it kills PlexEditor from running, and then it deletes the old working copy database from our PlexEditor data directory, and then it copies the new database files which is, it'll copy these 3 files here into our PlexEditor data directory that we have set under PlexEditor settings. And then it'll exit this batch file and go ahead and pull up PlexEditor, and then you can do whatever you want to do with it, make changes or whatever. And then when it's done, when you close PlexEditor for Windows, it'll ask you if you want to run this on close batch file, and if you do, then it will run this file. And this is just like the other file, only backwards, sorta, as far as you need to make sure that these data paths reflect the data paths where the files are actually at on your system. And you should only have to change this particular portion of it. So make sure that all these paths are the correct paths. So when this file is ran, the first thing it'll do is introduce a 3-second timeout to make sure that the caches are flushed before it starts deleting and copying and things. And then it's going to delete the old database log and index file from the Plex Media Server database directory. And then it's going to copy the file that we just edited and worked on into the Plex Media Server database directory, overriding the existing old file. And then it's going to restart the Plex Media Server and exit PlexEditor. So what you see is, let's start Plex Media Server and have it running. Okay, it's running down here. We'll start PlexEditor. It's going to come up and say, you want to run the onStart batch file? And you say, well, hell yes. And so it shuts down PlexEditor for Windows or Plex Media Server. Notice the icon is still in the tray down there, but if you hover over it, it'll disappear. It's no longer running. So it killed Plex Media Server, copied the database into our working directory that we have specified here under settings, under this path here. And this is also where you tell it to ask if you want it to run the onStart or unclosed batch files. So we make any changes we want to it, blah blah blah, do this, do that, do the other, and when we're done, we close PlexEditor. It's going to ask us if we want to run the unclosed batch file. Well, if for some reason we was just in there looking around, blah blah blah, or we screwed up and did a whole bunch of things that we don't really want to save to the original database, then we tell it no, and it just aborts everything, and you can get out of PlexEditor, and it will not overwrite the database in the Plex Media Server database directory. But if you tell it yes, it'll go ahead and copy those files, blah blah blah, the ones we just edited, into the original Plex Media Server directory, and then it will kill PlexEditor and it will restart Plex Media Server. And that's how you do it. Bing bam boom.